Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from the bridge of his ship. The U.S. Horizon was not a big ship, but it was his ship. He had been flying through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds and new life. Earth had sent him and his crew to explore this part of the galaxy. "Captain, we have something on the radar," said Lisa Park from her seat at the communications desk. She was young, but very good at her job. Her fingers moved fast across the control panel as she tried to understand what they were seeing. Jake walked over to look at her screen. "What is it, Lisa?" "It's huge, sir. Much bigger than our ship. It just appeared out of nowhere." Lisa's voice was excited, but also worried. "I think it came out of hyperspace." The main screen at the front of the bridge suddenly lit up. A massive ship appeared in front of them. It was beautiful, but also scary. The ship looked like it was made of crystal and metal mixed together. It was at least 10 times bigger than the Horizon. "Wow," whispered Ben Adams, the science officer. He was a quiet man who loved to study new things. "I've never seen anything like that before." Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was it. This was the moment humans had been waiting for. First contact with alien life. He straightened his uniform and tried to look calm. "Lisa, try to talk to them," he ordered. Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes. Strange symbols appeared on her screen. "Captain, they're sending us a message. The computer is trying to translate it." The big screen flickered and then showed something that made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. It was clearly alive, but it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The creature looked like a giant insect mixed with a dragon. Its body was covered in hard, shiny plates that looked like armor. It had 4 arms and eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. When it spoke, its voice was deep and scary. The computer translated its words into English, but the voice still sounded strange. "Small ship, you have entered the hunting grounds of the Zephyrian Empire. Tell us why you are here, or we will destroy you." Jake took a deep breath. All his training had prepared him for this moment. He had studied how to talk to aliens, how to be friendly and peaceful. He stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. We are explorers from the planet Earth. We want to learn about the galaxy and make friends with other species." The alien creature made a sound that might have been laughing, but it was not a happy sound. Its eyes seemed to shine brighter as it looked at Jake. "Friends," it said. "You weak creatures want to be friends with the Zephyrian Empire? We are the strongest hunters in the galaxy. We do not make friends with prey." Jake felt confused. "Prey? I think there's been a mistake. We're not prey. We're humans. We're intelligent beings, just like you." "Humans," the alien repeated the word slowly. "Never heard of your species before. What planet did you say you came from?" "Earth," Jake said proudly. "It's a beautiful blue and green planet in the Sol system." The alien's mandibles clicked together rapidly. Ben Adams whispered that this might be how they showed amusement or excitement. "Earth, Sol system. Never heard of it," the alien said. "If we've never heard of you, that means you are a weak species. Weak species are prey. Prey exists to feed the strong." Lisa looked at Jake with worry in her eyes. "Captain, their weapons are starting to power up. The computer is detecting energy build up in their ship." Jake raised his hands, hoping the alien would understand this meant peace. "Please, there's been a misunderstanding. We don't want to fight. We're peaceful explorers." "Peaceful?" The alien's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. "That is exactly what prey would say. You come into our territory and claim you are peaceful. But your presence here is an insult to the Zephyrian Empire." "An insult? How?" Jake asked. He was getting more confused and worried with each passing second. The alien leaned closer to its screen. For thousands of years, only the strongest species have dared to travel through Zephyrian space. By coming here, you claim to be strong, but you are clearly weak. This makes us look weak. We cannot allow this. Ben Adams stepped forward. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from their ship. Their weapons are definitely charging up. Jake tried again. Look, we made a mistake. We didn't know this was your territory. We'll leave right now and never come back. Leave? The aliens. Eyes glowed brighter. Oh no, little human. It is far too late for that. You have already insulted the Zephyrian Empire by suggesting we would allow weak prey to escape our hunting grounds. We're not prey, Jake said, starting to get angry. We're intelligent beings with our own civilization and technology. Technology? The alien looked around its bridge and then back at Jake. You fly in a tiny ship that looks like it was built by children. Your weapons are primitive. Your ship is slow. Everything about you screams weakness. The alien stood up from its chair. It was much taller than Jake had realized. But perhaps you will provide entertainment for our young warriors. They need practice hunting. Hunting? Lisa's voice was very quiet. Yes, little human, hunting. You see, you have made a very big mistake today. You have wandered into the territory of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. And now, by your presence here, you have done something that no species has ever survived. Jake felt his stomach drop. What have we done? The alien's mandibles spread wide in what was clearly a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Congratulations, primitive humans. You have just declared war on the galaxy's most ferocious species. War, Jake shouted. We haven't declared war on anyone. We came here in peace. Peace is weakness, the alien said. And weakness is an invitation to be hunted. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 3/4 of this galaxy by eliminating weak species. We have destroyed civilizations that were 1,000 times older than yours. The alien began to turn away from the screen. Your little ship will be destroyed first. Then we will find your home planet and hunt down every last human. Your species will serve as good practice for our youngest warriors. Wait, Jake called out. You can't do this. We're not a threat to you. The alien turned back. One last time. That is exactly the problem, human. You are not a threat. But you pretend to be by entering our space. This cannot be allowed. Lisa was frantically working at her station. Captain, more ships are appearing. I count at least 20 so far, with more coming. The alien's image on the screen seemed to grow larger and more frightening. The hunt begins now, humans. Try to run. Try to hide. Try to fight. It will make the game more interesting for us. The screen went black. Jake stood there in shock for a moment. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Outside, alien ships were surrounding them. The situation had gone from first contact to a death sentence in just a few minutes. Lisa, send a message to Earth immediately, Jake ordered. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the Zephyrians are coming. What do? We do, Captain? Ben asked. Jake looked at the alien ships on the radar. There were too many to count now. We run as fast as we can back to Earth and warn everyone. As the horizon turned and began to flee, Jake realized that humanity was about to face its greatest challenge ever. They had accidentally started a war with creatures that saw them as nothing more than prey to be hunted. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of when their survival was threatened. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone could have imagined. Within hours of the encounter between the humans and the Zephyrians, every major space station and planet had heard the story. The recording of Captain Jake Morrison's conversation with the Zephyrian commander played on screens everywhere. On the massive trading station called Nexus Prime, Creatures from dozens of different worlds gathered around the holographic displays. They watched the recording over and over again, unable to believe what they were seeing. "Those poor humans," said a tall, blue-skinned alien called Korvac. He was the ambassador for his people, the Corvan race. They were known for being peaceful and wise. They have no idea what they have done. Next to him stood a creature that looked like a giant ant with 4 arms. This was Chidek, representing the Thrax colonies. "The Zephyrians will hunt them down like animals," he clicked sadly. "Just like they did to my cousin species on Thrax 7. Other aliens nodded their heads in agreement. They had all heard stories about the Zephyrian Empire. Some had even lost friends and family to Zephyrian attacks. Everyone knew that once the Zephyrians decided to hunt a species, that species usually did not survive very long. A small furry creature with big eyes spoke up. "How long do you think the humans will last?" asked Pippa, who came from a world of peaceful traders. "The Drakmari were the strongest warriors in the Outer Rim," Korvac said quietly. "They had weapons that could destroy moons. They held out against the Zephyrians for 3 years before their whole world was conquered. The crystal people of Vexhai tried to negotiate," added Chiddick. "They offered the Zephyrians anything they wanted. The Zephyrians turned their beautiful crystal cities into mining colonies and made the people into slaves." All the aliens looked at the screen where Captain Jake Morrison was still trying to explain that humans came in peace. They felt sorry for him and his species. "Humans seem nice enough," said Pippa. "It is too bad they picked a fight with the wrong aliens." "They did not pick a fight," Korvac corrected her. "They just happened to fly into Zephyrian space at the wrong time. The Zephyrians will use any excuse to start hunting a new species." Meanwhile, Ambassador Helen Carter was rushing through space toward Nexus Prime. She had been Earth's representative to the few alien species they had already met. When the news reached Earth about what happened to Captain Morrison, the government sent her immediately to try to find help. Helen's ship was small and fast, but she felt like she was moving too slowly. Every hour that passed meant the Zephyrians were getting closer to Earth. She had to find allies, or her entire species would be wiped out. When she finally arrived at Nexus Prime, Helen was amazed by what she saw. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of different aliens lived and worked there. She had never seen so many different types of creatures in one place. But when she started talking to the alien ambassadors, her hope began to fade. "Ambassador Carter," said Korvac when she found him in the diplomatic quarter, "we are very sorry for what has happened to your people. The Zephyrians are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. There must be something we can do," Helen said desperately. "Some way to make peace with them." Korvac's blue face looked sad. "The Zephyrians only understand strength. They do not make peace with species they consider weak. And unfortunately, they consider all other species weak." "What about forming an alliance?" Helen asked. "If all the other species work together, surely we could stop them." Chiddick's antennae drooped. "Many species have tried that before. The Zephyrians just hunt the alliance members one by one. They are very patient and very smart. How many ships do they have?" Helen asked. "No one knows for sure," said Pippa. "Some say thousands. Others say tens of thousands. What we do know is that they have never lost a major battle." Helen felt her heart sinking. "Never?" Korvac confirmed. "They have been conquering other species for over 1,000 years. Their technology is far ahead of everyone else's. Their warriors are bred for fighting. They enjoy causing pain and fear. There must be some weakness," Helen insisted. "Every species has something." The aliens looked at each other sadly. Finally, Chiddick spoke up. "Their only weakness might be their pride. They are very proud of being the strongest hunters in the galaxy. Sometimes this makes them overconfident. But even that does not help much," added Korvac. Being overconfident does not matter when. You have overwhelming firepower. Back on Earth, the government was in emergency session. President Mary Johnson sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by generals, scientists, and advisors. Everyone looked worried and scared. How long do we have? President Johnson asked. General Rick Taylor looked at his reports. Our best guess is maybe 2 weeks before their main fleet reaches Earth. Captain Morrison's ship is still running, but the Zephyrians are not chasing him very hard. They seem to be taking their time. Why would they do that? Asked Dr. Susan Wright, Earth's leading expert on alien life. They are probably gathering a bigger fleet, General Taylor explained. From what we know, they like to make sure they have overwhelming force before they attack. What about our defenses? President Johnson asked. Admiral Paul King spoke up. We have 12 orbital defense platforms around Earth. The moon base has another 6. We also have about 40 ships that could be used for fighting, though they were not really designed for war. And the Zephyrians? Unknown, but probably hundreds of ships, each one more advanced than anything we have. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Earth was defenseless against this kind of attack. Dr. Wright cleared her throat. There is one thing we should consider. The Zephyrians think we are weak prey animals. They are not expecting us to fight back effectively. What do you mean? President Johnson asked. Every species they have conquered before has fought them using traditional space battle tactics. Energy weapons, shields, formations of ships, shooting at each other from long distance. General Taylor nodded. And they have proven that their technology is better at that kind of fighting. Exactly, Dr. Wright said. But what if we do not fight them the way they expect? What if we use tactics that no other species has tried? Like, what? Admiral King asked. Dr. Wright smiled for the first time all day. Like fighting dirty, like cheating, like using every nasty trick that humans have ever thought of. President Johnson leaned forward. Explain. The Zephyrians are proud warriors. They follow rules of combat that they consider honorable. But humans have never been very good at following rules when our survival is at stake. General Taylor was starting to understand. You want us to fight like guerrillas, hit and run, sneak attacks, booby traps. Exactly. And not just in space. If they reach Earth, we make them fight for every city, every building, every room. We make it so expensive for them to conquer us that they decide it is not worth the effort. Admiral King shook his head. But their technology is so much better than ours. Maybe, Dr. Wright said, but technology is not everything. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have learned how to win even when we are outnumbered and outgunned. President Johnson stood up. What do you need? Time, Dr. Wright said, and permission to break every rule of civilized warfare ever written. The president looked around the table at all the worried faces. You have both. Do whatever it takes to save humanity. As the meeting ended, everyone began to realize that Earth was about to change completely. The peaceful planet that had just started exploring the galaxy was about to become a fortress. And the humans, who had accidentally declared war on the galaxy's most dangerous predators, were about to show the universe what they were really capable of when their backs were against the wall. In space, the Zephyrian fleet was still gathering. They were taking their time because they expected this to be an easy hunt. They had no idea that they were about to face the one species in the galaxy that specialized in making the impossible possible. The war was about to begin, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The change began immediately. Within 24 hours of President Johnson's emergency meeting, every factory on Earth received new orders. Car companies stopped making cars and started making spacecraft parts. Electronics companies stopped making phones and started making weapons. Even toy companies began producing components for military equipment. Danny Roberts had been building civilian spacecraft for 15 years. He worked at the Luna City shipyard, which floated in orbit around the moon. Now he found himself in charge of building humanity's first real warship. "This is crazy," Danny said to Dr. Karen Lai as they walked through the construction bay. Around them, hundreds of workers moved like ants, welding, cutting, and assembling pieces of what would become the HFY Sci-Fi. Karen was one of Earth's smartest weapons designers. She had been pulled from her research job and told to create something that could fight the Zephyrians. "Crazy is exactly what we need right now," she replied. The ship taking shape in front of them looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels they had seen in the recording. The Defiance was ugly and brutal. It looked like someone had taken a city block and strapped rockets to it. "Why are we building it so big and heavy?" Danny asked. "Because we are not trying to be pretty," Karen explained. "We are trying to be effective. The aliens make their ships beautiful and elegant. We are making ours tough and mean." She led him to where the weapons were being installed. Instead of the clean energy weapons that other species used, the Defiance had massive metal cannons that looked like they belonged on an old Navy ship. "These are kinetic weapons," Karen said proudly. While every other species in the galaxy moved to energy beams and plasma bolts, we are going back to basics. We shoot heavy metal objects very, very fast. Danny looked at the huge ammunition that was being loaded. Each shell was as big as a car and made of depleted uranium. "Will it work?" "Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons," Karen said, with a grin. "Let us see how they handle a ton of metal, moving at 1/3 the speed of light." All over the solar system, similar preparations were happening. The asteroid belt became a giant factory as mining robots were reprogrammed to hollow out space rocks and fill them with explosives. Jupiter's moons were turned into fuel depots and weapons storage facilities. Even Saturn's rings were modified to hide attack ships. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood in his new command center on Earth. He watched screens showing the frantic activity happening throughout the solar system. The weight of humanity's survival rested on his shoulders. "How many ships will we have ready when they arrive?" he asked Colonel Amy Foster. His new tactical advisor. Amy was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her career studying military history. 12 proper warships like the Defiance. Another 30 converted cargo ships with weapon packages attached. And about 50 smaller attack craft. Against how many Zephyrian ships? Intelligence estimates between 150 and 200 ships in their main attack fleet. Jake stared at the numbers on his screen. 92 against 200. Not good odds. "No, sir, they are not," Amy agreed. "But we do have some advantages they do not know about." "Such as?" Amy smiled in a way that would have scared the Zephyrians if they could have seen it. "They are expecting us to fight like every other species they have conquered. Line up our ships, charge forward, and trade shots until one side is destroyed." "And we are not going to do that?" "Admiral, humans have been fighting wars since we lived in caves. We have learned every dirty trick there is. The Zephyrians are about to get an education in human warfare." She brought up a tactical display showing the solar system. "First, we have turned our entire solar system into a weapon. They think they are attacking one planet. Actually, they are flying into the biggest trap in human history." Jake looked at the display more carefully. "What am I looking at?" "Mines hidden in the asteroid belt. Attack ships disguised as space debris. Weapons platforms built into the sides of planets. Even the space stations have been converted into fortresses. The Zephyrians will see all this when they arrive." "Will they?" Amy asked. "Their sensors are designed to look for active energy signatures. Our weapons are all passive until the moment we fire them, and we have learned some interesting things about their technology. She pulled up another screen showing technical data. The Zephyrians are very advanced, but they have become overconfident. They use the same tactics against every enemy. They rely too heavily on their technology and not enough on creative thinking. Jake was beginning to understand. You want to outthink them instead of outfight them. Exactly. We cannot match their firepower, so we will not try. Instead, we will make them fight our kind of war. What kind of war is that? Amy's smile grew wider. The kind where there are no rules. Meanwhile, in factories around the world, unusual weapons were being produced. Scientists worked around the clock to create things that had never been built before. Nuclear mines that could be hidden in space debris. Missiles that could split into hundreds of smaller missiles. Even stranger devices that used Earth's own magnetic field as a weapon. Dr. Susan Wright supervised much of this work from her laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. She had not slept in 3 days, but her eyes were bright with excitement. How is the project coming? Asked General Rick Taylor when he visited her lab. Better than expected, Susan replied. The Zephyrians have made one critical mistake. They think that because we are primitive, we are predictable. Are we not? General, we are the species that invented nuclear weapons and then used them in warfare. We created chemical weapons so terrible that we banned ourselves from using them. We have spent our entire history finding new and creative ways to kill each other. General Taylor was not sure if he should be proud or horrified. And now we turn all that creativity against the Zephyrians. The Zephyrians are hunters, Susan continued. They are very good at what they do, but they do the same thing every time. They overwhelm their prey with superior force. But humans are not just prey animals. We are also predators. And we are the kind of predators that will chew off our own. Leg to escape a trap. In the shipyards, workers put the finishing touches on the human fleet. The ships looked rough and crude compared to alien technology, but they were built for one purpose: to hurt the enemy as much as possible before being destroyed. The U.S. Defiance was the flagship, but it was not the most dangerous ship in the fleet. That honor belonged to a converted cargo hauler called the U.S. Crazy Horse. The ship had been filled with explosives and equipped with the most powerful engines humanity could build. What exactly is that ship supposed to do? Danny Roberts asked. When he saw it, ram the biggest Zephyrian ship we can find, Corinne Lee replied casually. Ram it? You mean crash into it? At about 60% of light speed. Yes. Danny stared at her. That will destroy both ships. That is the idea. One human ship for one Zephyrian ship is a trade we can afford to make. They cannot replace their ships as easily as we can replace ours. All across Earth, similar preparations were being made. Every human on Earth knew that their species was fighting for survival. Factory workers stayed at their jobs for days without rest. Scientists worked until they collapsed from exhaustion. Even children helped by sorting components and running messages. The transformation was incredible. In just 2 weeks, the peaceful planet Earth had become the most heavily armed world in the solar system. Weapons that had never existed before were being mass-produced. Tactics that no species had ever tried were being planned and practiced. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it left Earth's orbit for the first time. Through the view screen, he could see the other ships of humanity's fleet. They were not beautiful, but they looked deadly. All ships report ready, Admiral, Colonel Amy Foster announced. Any word from our scouts? The Zephyrian fleet will arrive in approximately 36 hours. They are not hurrying because they think this will be easy. Jake nodded. Then we have 36 hours to make our final preparations. Make sure every ship knows the plan." "Yes." "Sir, what should we tell the crews?" Jake thought for a moment. "Tell them that we are about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Tell them that we may be outnumbered, but we are not outmatched. And tell them that no matter what happens, we are going to make the Zephyrians regret the day they decided to hunt humans." As the human fleet moved into position throughout the solar system, the Zephyrian fleet continued its approach. The aliens had no idea that they were flying into a system that had been transformed into the most dangerous place in the galaxy. They thought they were coming to hunt helpless prey. They were about to learn that humans were not prey at all. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a cloud of deadly insects. 200 ships materialized in perfect formation, their crystal hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. Each ship was a work of art, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Hunter, Commander Zektar stretched his 4 arms and clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. He was young for a Zephyrian commander, only 300 years old, but he had already conquered 12 species for the Empire. "Such a small system," he said to his second-in-command, Vexara. "Only 1 star and a few rocky planets. The prey species must be even more primitive than we thought." Vexara was studying the sensor readings. "Commander, I am detecting several ships in the inner system. They appear to be moving away from the 3rd planet." "Running already?" Zektar laughed. "How disappointing. I was hoping for at least a little." Sport. The Zephyrian fleet began moving toward Earth at a steady pace. They were in no hurry. Their sensors showed only 12 large ships and maybe 30 smaller ones. Against 200 Zephyrian warships, it would not even be a fair fight. "Should we offer them a chance to surrender?" asked Vexara. "No," Zektar replied. They declared, "War on us, remember? Let them face the consequences." What the Zephyrians did not notice was that the human ships were not running in panic. They were moving according to a carefully planned strategy. Each ship was heading to a different location in the solar system, spreading out in a pattern that looked random, but was actually very deliberate. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet approach. His ship was hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons, along with 3 other human vessels. The rest of the fleet was scattered throughout the system, waiting for the signal to attack. "They are moving." "Exactly as we predicted," Colonel Amy Foster reported. "Straight toward Earth in a tight formation." "Any sign they have detected our hidden weapons?" "None, sir. Their sensors are focused on our active ships. They do not seem to be looking for passive threats." Jake nodded. The plan was working so far. The Zephyrians were so confident in their superiority that they were not being careful. They thought they were hunting frightened prey animals. They were about to learn how wrong they were not as the alien fleet passed through the asteroid belt. The first surprise was waiting for them. Hidden among the rocks were hundreds of mines that had been disguised to look like ordinary asteroids. When the Zephyrian ships came within range, the mines activated all at once. The explosions lit up space like a deadly fireworks show. Dozens of nuclear devices detonated simultaneously, each one releasing the power of a small star. The beautiful formation of alien ships suddenly became a chaos of fire and twisted metal. "What sorcery is this?" Zektar demanded as his ship shook from the blasts. Half of his fleet had been damaged or destroyed in the first few seconds of the battle. "Unknown weapons, Commander," Vexara reported, her voice shaking. "They were completely hidden from our sensors." But the surprises were just beginning. As the surviving Zephyrian ships tried to regroup, the human fleet began its attack. Instead of meeting the aliens in honorable combat, the human ships attacked. From every direction at once, the UES Defiance burst out from behind Jupiter's moon, its massive kinetic cannons firing. The depleted uranium shells streaked across space, faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. When they hit their targets, the results were devastating. The Zephyrian ship's energy shields, designed to deflect laser beams and plasma bolts, offered no protection against solid metal, moving at incredible speed. The shells punched through alien hulls like they were made of paper, detonating power cores and turning advanced warships into expanding clouds of debris. Impossible. Zektar screamed. How are they doing this? Another human ship, the UES Vengeance, appeared from the opposite direction. But instead of energy weapons, it fired what looked like simple chemical explosives. The Zephyrians almost laughed until the missiles reached their targets. Each missile split into 50 smaller ones. Then each of those split into 50 more. Suddenly, the space around the alien ships was filled with thousands of tiny explosives, each one smart enough to find its own target. The swarm of mini-missiles overwhelmed the Zephyrian point defenses completely. More, human ships kept appearing from hiding places throughout the solar system. Behind asteroids, in the shadows of planets, even camouflaged as pieces of space junk. The entire solar system had been turned into an ambush. They are not fighting like civilized beings, Vexara said in horror, as another group of Zephyrian ships was destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. The humans were using tactics that violated every rule of galactic warfare. They hid instead of fighting openly. They used weapons designed to cause maximum damage instead of demonstrating skill. They attacked from all directions instead of forming battle lines. Worst of all, they seemed to have no sense of honor or fair play. When a human ship was badly damaged, instead of retreating or surrendering, it would charge straight at the nearest Zephyrian vessel and explode. The UES Crazy Horse was the most shocking example. The converted cargo ship accelerated to incredible speed and ran directly into the Zephyrian cruiser Void Stalker. The explosion was so bright, could be seen from Earth. "They are completely insane," whispered a young Zephyrian warrior. "They destroyed their own ship just to damage ours." Zektar was beginning to understand that this was not going to be the easy hunt he had expected. These humans fought like cornered animals, using every dirty trick they could think of. They did not care about honor or glory. They only cared about killing as many Zephyrians as possible. "All ships form defensive positions," he ordered. "We need to regroup and assess the situation." But regrouping was easier said than done. The humans would not let the Zephyrians organize. Every time the alien ships tried to form up, human vessels would attack from unexpected angles. The battles were not the elegant duels that Zephyrians were used to. They were brutal, chaotic fights where anything could happen. Admiral Jake Morrison pushed his ship to its limits, diving between asteroids and using the planet's gravity to make impossible turns. The Defiance was not as fast or maneuverable as the alien ships, but it was tougher. Human engineering had focused on making ships that could take damage and keep fighting. "Amy, how are we doing?" he asked as another Zephyrian ship exploded under their guns. "We have lost 8 ships," Colonel Foster reported, "but we have destroyed or severely damaged over 60 of theirs." 8 for 60, Jake said grimly. "That is a trade ratio we can live with." The battle raged throughout the solar system for hours. Human ships would attack, inflict damage, and then disappear back into hiding. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy they could not pin down or predict. Near Saturn, 3 human ships worked together to destroy a Zephyrian battleship. They used the planet's rings to hide their approach, then hit the alien ship from 3 sides at once. The Zephyrians never had a chance to return fire. Around Mars, a single human corvette led a squadron of Zephyrian fighters into a trap. Hidden, weapons platforms built into the planet's surface opened fire, destroying the entire alien squadron in seconds. Even more disturbing for the Zephyrians, was the humans' willingness to sacrifice themselves. When the U.E.'s Liberty was surrounded by 5 enemy ships, its captain did not try to escape. Instead, he overloaded his ship's reactor and turned it into a massive bomb that took out 3 of the attacking vessels. As the battle continued, Zektar realized that his fleet was being slowly destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight fairly. The humans used every advantage they could find. They hid behind planets, inside asteroid fields, even in the sun's corona, where the radiation would damage Zephyrian sensors. "Commander," Vexara said urgently, "we have lost over half our ships. Perhaps we should withdraw and request reinforcements." Zektar. Pride rebelled against the idea of retreating from such primitive opponents. But the facts were undeniable. His beautiful fleet was being torn apart by creatures that fought like wild beasts. "No," he said finally. "We finish this now. All remaining ships converge on the 3rd planet. We will destroy their homeworld and end this madness." The surviving Zephyrian ships, fewer than 80 now, formed up for a final assault on Earth. But as they approached the blue-green planet, they found one last surprise waiting for them. Earth itself had been turned into a fortress. Orbital weapons. Platforms surrounded the planet like a metal shell. The moon bristled with missile launchers and energy cannons. Even the space stations had been converted into weapons. "How many weapons do these creatures have?" Vengzara asked in amazement. The answer came in the form of thousands of missiles launching from Earth's surface, its orbital platforms, and the lunar bases. The sky filled with streaks of light as humanity's final defense activated. Zektar watched his remaining ships disappear one by one under the incredible barrage. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen anything like it. These humans had turned their entire star system into a weapon dot as his own ship shuddered under multiple impacts. Zektar finally understood the truth. The humans had not declared war on the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrian Empire had declared war on humanity, and they were losing. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a very different place. The news had spread to every corner of known space. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the Zephyrian Empire. Ambassador Helen Carter stood in the main assembly hall of Nexus Prime, looking out at hundreds of alien representatives. The same creatures who had pitied humanity 6 months ago now looked at her with a mixture of respect and fear. "The Zephyrian Empire has formally requested a peace treaty," Helen announced to the gathered aliens. Her voice was calm, but inside, she still could not believe the words she was saying. The hall erupted in shocked whispers and clicks. Korvak, the blue-skinned Corvan ambassador, leaned forward in his seat. His voice was barely above a whisper when he spoke. "Ambassador Carter, forgive my surprise, but the Zephyrians have never requested peace from anyone. In over 1,000 years of expansion, they have never even considered negotiating with their enemies." Helen smiled. "Yes, well, it turns out that losing 70% of their attack fleet in a single battle tends to change one's perspective on diplomacy." Chidek, the insect-like Thrax representative, clicked his mandibles nervously. "The entire galaxy is talking about your battle tactics. Using your star system as a weapon, ramming ships into enemy vessels, hiding weapons everywhere. These methods are very unusual." "Unusual is one way to put it," Helen agreed. "We prefer to think of them as effective." A small, furry creature named Pippa raised her tiny hand. "But how did you know these tactics would work?" "No other species has ever tried such things." Helen's smile grew wider. "That is exactly why they worked. The Zephyrians had conquered everyone else by being stronger and more advanced. But they had never fought anyone who was willing to break all the rules." She activated a holographic display showing the solar system. "You see, the Zephyrians made one critical mistake. They assumed that because we were technologically primitive, we would be strategically primitive as well. The display showed the battle, with human ships appearing from impossible hiding places and using weapons that should not have existed. They expected us to line up our ships and have a nice, civilized space battle, Helen continued. Instead, we turned our entire solar system into the largest ambush in galactic history. Korvac shook his blue head in amazement. But the casualties. Your people sacrificed so many ships and lives. 43 ships and over 8,000 lives, Helen said solemnly. But we destroyed 137 Zephyrian vessels and killed over 50,000 of their warriors. In human terms, that is what we call a victory. The alien representatives looked at each other with worry. They were beginning to understand that humans thought about war very differently than other species did. What happens now? Asked a tall, green alien from the Outer Rim territories. Now we build, Helen said simply. The Zephyrians have agreed to withdraw from 12 star systems that they conquered over the past century. Those systems are asking for human protection while they rebuild their civilizations. This caused another wave of shocked murmurs throughout the hall. The idea that former Zephyrian territories would voluntarily ask for protection from the humans was almost unbelievable. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison was meeting with the surviving Zephyrian commander in a secure facility beneath the Swiss mountains. Commander Zektar sat across from him, his once proud mandibles drooping with defeat. The alien looked very different than he had during their first encounter. His armor was scarred, and one of his forearms was in a healing brace. But more than the physical damage, it was clear that the battle had broken something inside him. I do not understand, Zektar said for the 10th time. We had superior ships, superior weapons, superior numbers. How did you defeat us? Jake leaned back in his chair. You want to know the truth? We cheated. We lied. We broke every rule of honorable combat that exists. But why? Zektar asked. Where is the glory in such tactics? Glory? Jake laughed. Commander, we were not fighting for glory. We were fighting for survival. When your entire species is about to be wiped out, you do not worry about fighting fair. You worry about winning. Zektar's compound eyes focused on Jake with new interest. Your species has fought many wars against itself, have you not? More than we can count, Jake admitted. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We have learned every dirty trick there is. And now you use these tricks against us. Now we use them to protect ourselves and our allies, Jake corrected. The Zephyrian Empire spent 1,000 years conquering weaker species. Someone had to stop you eventually. Zektar was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Less arrogant, more curious. In Zephyrian culture, being defeated in battle by a superior foe brings great honor. You have defeated us completely. This means humans are the new apex predators of the galaxy. Jake frowned. We do not want to be apex predators. We just want to be left alone to explore and learn. But you cannot escape what you are, Zektar insisted. You have proven that you are the strongest species in the galaxy. Others will challenge you. Others will test your strength. Then they will learn the same lesson you did, Jake said grimly. 3 months later, the first joint human-alien military exercise took place in the neutral Kepler system. The event was attended by representatives from dozens of species, all eager to learn about human military tactics. Colonel Amy Foster stood before a mixed group of human and alien officers in a large training facility. The aliens watched her with fascination and fear as she began her presentation. Today, we are going to learn about asymmetric warfare, Amy announced. The first rule is simple. If you find yourself in a fair fight, you have made a serious mistake. A young Zephyrian warrior raised his clawed hand. But surely honor demands that warriors meet on equal terms? Amy's smile was gentle but terrifying. Son, honor is what gets you a fancy funeral. Victory is what gets you home to your family. Which one do you think is more important? The alien officers looked at each other nervously. This was not the kind of military training they were used to. Now, Amy continued, who wants to learn about psychological warfare? Several aliens raised their hands eagerly. The Corvin military attach seemed particularly interested. Psychological warfare is about making your enemy defeat themselves, Amy explained. You make them so afraid, so confused, so demoralized that they give up without you having to destroy them. How do you do that? Asked Chittick. Well, Amy said, with a wicked grin, during our battle with the Zephyrians, we broadcast recordings of human music on all frequencies. Specifically, we played something called death metal at maximum volume. The aliens looked confused. What is death metal? Amy activated a small speaker and played a few seconds of the loudest, most aggressive music Earth had ever produced. The alien officers immediately covered their ears and recoiled in horror. You use that as a weapon? Gasped the Corvin. Psychological warfare, Amy said proudly. By the end of the battle, some Zephyrian ships were surrendering just to make U.S. stop playing music. As the training exercises continued, word spread throughout the galaxy about humanity's new role in interstellar politics. The species that had accidentally declared war on the galaxy's most dangerous predators had become the galaxy's newest superpower. More importantly, they had become its protector. When the crystal beings of Vex High asked for help rebuilding their civilization, human ships arrived within weeks. When the peaceful Thrax colonies reported pirate attacks, human patrol vessels drove off the raiders. The galaxy was learning that humans were not conquerors like the Zephyrians had been. They were defenders. They used their strength to protect the weak, not to exploit them. On Nexus Prime, a new saying began to appear on walls and in digital messages. It was written in dozens of different alien languages, but the meaning was always the same. Humans, the only species crazy enough to declare war on the galaxy's apex predators, and smart enough to win. Back on Earth, President Mary Johnson stood in her office, looking out at the night sky. Through her window, she could see the lights of the orbital defense platforms that still surrounded the planet. Even in victory, humanity remained vigilant. Any word from our colony ships? She asked her aide. The first human colonies have been established in the former Zephyrian territories, the aide reported. The local populations are very welcoming. They see us as liberators rather than conquerors. Good, President Johnson said. And the Zephyrians themselves? Commander Zektar has requested permission to establish a cultural exchange program. Apparently, many young Zephyrians want to learn human military tactics. President Johnson laughed. They want to learn how to fight dirty. It seems so, ma'am. Well, the president said, turning back to the window, I suppose there are worse things to be known for throughout the galaxy than being the species that taught everyone else how to win. In the distance, a human ship was departing for the Outer Rim, carrying supplies and protection to species that had never known freedom under Zephyrian rule. The age of human expansion had begun, but it was unlike any expansion the galaxy had ever seen before. Humans did not conquer, they liberated. They did not rule, they protected.